Welcome to Searching the Scriptures. Our Bible teacher will be Gunther von Harringa Sr. In this series of studies, we will be focusing on the book of Judges. In Acts 17:11 we read, "These were more noble than those in Thessalonica, in that they received the word with all readiness of mind, and searched the Scriptures daily, whether those things were so." So without further ado, let's look into God's Word, the Bible.
Good evening and welcome to Searching the Scriptures. This is going to be Judges 5, Part 20, and today's date is October 16th, 2017. I'll go ahead and read verses 12 through 18 of Judges 5. Awake, awake, Deborah. Awake, awake, utter a song. Arise, Barak, and lead thy captivity captive, thou son of Abinoam. Then he made him that remaineth have dominion over the nobles among the people. Jehovah made me have dominion over the mighty. Out of Ephraim was there a root of them against Amalek. After thee, Benjamin, among thy people. Out of Machir came down governors, and out of Zebulun they that handle the pen of the writer. And the princes of Issachar were with Deborah, even Issachar and also Barak. He was sent on foot into the valley. For the divisions of Reuben there were great thoughts of heart. Why abodest thou among the sheepfolds to hear the bleatings of the flocks? For the divisions of Reuben there were great searchings of heart. Gilead abode beyond Jordan, and why did Dan remain in ships? Asher continued on the seashore, and abode in his breaches. Zebulun and Naphtali were a people that jeoparded their lives unto the death in the high places of the field. We've come down to verse 14 so far in our study of Judges 5, and the first phrase that we want to consider today is, out of Ephraim was there a root of them against Amalek. These three terms don't appear together except in this verse. However, we do find that the first two words, out of Ephraim and a root, Ephraim is Strong's number 669, and a root is 8328. These two words do surface together in one other citation, which is Hosea 9:16. And I'll pick up the context starting with Hosea 8:14, which is the last verse in chapter 8, and then move into Hosea 9:1 through 17. One thing that we want to keep in mind, and this is interesting because we have, in the verses I read, an introduction to a number of the tribes. And so we wonder what it is that God is trying to get across with this. But one thing that we want to keep in mind is that Ephraim can represent the 10 northern tribes with their capital in Samaria, whereas Judah and Benjamin, the two southern tribes, had their capital in Jerusalem. God punished both of them for their rebellion against him. And you'll notice God's indictment of them both in Hosea 8:14. We also know, according to the biblical calendar, that Ephraim, or the 10 northern tribes, was destroyed by the Assyrians in 709 BC. And then later Judah by Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians in 609 BC, exactly 100 years later, at the start of the second great tribulation period spoken about in the Bible, which lasted 70 years, from 609 BC to 539 BC, during which Jerusalem was overthrown in 587 BC. I bring this up as you will notice that Assyria, along with Egypt, and Egypt spiritually is a reference indicating slavery to sin and to Satan, is mentioned. For Israel hath forgotten his Maker, and buildeth temples, and Judah hath multiplied fenced cities. But I will send a fire upon his cities, and it shall devour the palaces thereof. Then this is verse 1 of Hosea 9. Rejoice not, O Israel, for joy as other people. For thou hast gone a whoring from thy God, thou hast loved a reward upon every corn floor. The floor and the winepress shall not feed them, and the new wine shall fail in her. They shall not dwell in Jehovah's land, but Ephraim shall return to Egypt, and they shall eat unclean things in Assyria. They shall not offer wine offerings to Jehovah, neither shall they be pleasing unto him. Their sacrifices shall be unto them as the bread of mourners. All that eat thereof shall be polluted. For their bread, for their soul shall not come into the house of Jehovah. What will ye do in the solemn day and in the day of the feast of Jehovah? For lo, they are gone because of destruction. Egypt shall gather them, Memphis shall bury them, the pleasant places for their silver. Nettles shall possess them, thorns shall be in their tabernacles. The days of visitation are come. The days of recompense are come. Israel shall know it. The prophet is a fool. The spiritual man is mad, for the multitude of thine iniquity and the great hatred. The watchman of Ephraim was with my God, but the prophet is a snare of a fowler in all his ways, and hatred in the house of his God. They have deeply corrupted themselves as in the days of Gibeah. Therefore he will remember their iniquity. He will visit their sins. I found Israel like grapes in the wilderness. I saw your fathers as the first ripe in the fig tree at her first time. But they went to Baal Peor and separated themselves unto that shame. And their abominations were according as they loved. As for Ephraim, their glory shall fly away like a bird, from the birth, and from the womb, and from the conception. Though they bring up their children, yet will I bereave them, that there shall not be a man left. Yea, woe also to them when I depart from them. Ephraim, as I saw Tyrus, is planted in a pleasant place. But Ephraim shall bring forth his children to the murderer. Give them, O Jehovah, what wilt thou give? Give them a miscarrying womb and dry breasts. All their wickedness is in Gilgal, for there I hated them. For the wickedness of their doings I will drive them out of mine house. I will love them no more. All their princes are revolters. Ephraim is smitten, their root, this is our two terms, is dried up. They shall bear no fruit. Yea, though they bring forth, yet will I slay even the beloved fruit of their womb. My God will cast them away, because they did not hearken unto him, and they shall be wanderers among the nations. In J.P. Green's Interlinear Bible, Judges 5:14a is rendered this way: Out of Ephraim came they whose root was in Amalek as opposed to against Amalek. And there are many verses that speak of Ephraim or Israel's sin, and like Judah, they both spiritually typify the churches and denominations that came under the wrath of God as of May 21st, 1988. I also tried looking for a direct tie-in between Ephraim and Amalek, but I wasn't able to find any verses to confirm this. However, when we recognize that Amalek was the grandson of Esau, then we can begin to see what God has in mind by this association between Ephraim and Amalek, as the following passages explain. If we go to Genesis 36, 12 and 16, we learn there, and Timnah was concubine to Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bare to Eliphaz Amalek. Amalek, by the way, is 6002. These were the sons of Adah, Esau's wife. Then verse 16, Duke Korah, Duke Gatam, and Duke Amalek. These are the dukes that came of Eliphaz in the land of Edom. These were the sons of Adah. And if you recall, Edom is another word for Esau, as is Seir or Mount Seir or Teman or Basra. These are all references to Esau. Amalek is also mentioned in Balaam's parable. I think in one of our previous studies, we went through some of those verses. But in Numbers 24:20, we find a very significant statement when we consider that there are only two spiritual nations in view, the elect and the non-elect. And when he looked on Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations, but his latter end shall be that he perish forever. Also, if we go to Deuteronomy 25, 17 through 19, we find here some pertinent details that God provides, and you'll note the frightening accusation at the end of verse 18. And he feared not God. Remember what Amalek did unto thee by the way, when ye were come forth out of Egypt, how he met thee by the way, and smote the hindmost of thee, even all that were feeble behind thee, when thou wast faint and weary, and he feared not God. Therefore it shall be, when Jehovah thy God hath given thee rest from all thine enemies round about, in the land which Jehovah thy God giveth thee for an inheritance to possess it, that thou shalt blot out the remembrance of Amalek from under heaven. Thou shalt not forget it. This is also corroborated by what we read in 1 Samuel 15, 2 and 18. Thus saith Jehovah of hosts, I remember that which Amalek did to Israel, how he laid wait for him in the way when he came up from Egypt. And Jehovah sent thee, this would be King Saul, on a journey, and said, Go and utterly destroy the sinners, the Amalekites, and fight against them until they be consumed. And if you recall from 1 Samuel 15, what King Saul did was he spared King Agag, and he spared the best of the flock with the pretense that we are going to offer these to the Lord as a sacrifice. And that's when Samuel came to him and said, and I'm paraphrasing, obedience is better than sacrifice. And at that point, the kingdom was taken away from Saul and given to David. In principle, it didn't actually happen until after the death of Saul, but nonetheless, God showed his displeasure with King Saul, who was also, I should add, a picture of the corporate church as well. Now, we can go down to the next phrase, after thee, Benjamin, among thy people. And these three terms, again, only appear together in this verse. However, as with the preceding phrase, the first two words are found in 4 other verses. But the one I want to focus on most notably is verse 8 of Hosea 5, 1 through 15. And notice again, if you will, the constant repetition of Israel, Ephraim, and Judah. Pardon me. Hear ye this, O priests, and hearken, ye house of Israel, and give ye ear, O house of the king. For judgment is toward you, because ye have been a snare on Mizpah, and a net spread upon Tabor. And the revolters are profound to make slaughter. Though I have been a rebuker of them all, I know Ephraim, and Israel is not hid from me. For now, O Ephraim, thou committest whoredom, and Israel is defiled. They will not frame their doings to turn unto their God, for the spirit of whoredoms is in the midst of them, and they have not known Jehovah. And the pride of Israel doth testify to his face. Therefore shall Israel and Ephraim fall in their iniquity. Judah also shall fall with them. Now notice this next phrase, they shall go with their flocks and with their herds to seek Jehovah, but they shall not find him. He hath withdrawn himself from them. They have dealt treacherously against Jehovah, for they have begotten strange children. Now shall a month devour them with their portions. Blow ye the cornet in Gibeah, and the trumpet in Ramah. Cry aloud at Bethaven, after thee, O Benjamin. Ephraim shall be desolate in the day of rebuke. Among the tribes of Israel have I made known that which shall surely be. The princes of Judah were like them that remove the bound. Therefore I will pour out my wrath upon them like water. Ephraim is oppressed and broken in judgment, because he willingly walked after the commandment. Therefore will I be unto Ephraim as a moth, and to the house of Judah as rottenness. When Ephraim saw his sickness, and Judah saw his wound, then went Ephraim to the Assyrian, and sent to King Jareb, yet could he not heal you, nor cure you of your wound. For I will be unto Ephraim as a lion, and as a young lion to the house of Judah. I, even I, will tear and go away. I will take away, and none shall rescue him. I will go and return to my place, till they acknowledge their offense, and seek my face. In their affliction they will seek me early. So again, we see the what is in view spiritually is the destruction of the churches and denominations typified by Israel in the north and also Judah in the south. And just as God, like we read in verse 6, he departed They tried to find him, but they couldn't find him because he wasn't there. He departed out of the churches and denominations as of May 21st, 1988, in the same way that he departed out of the world as of May 21, 2011, and the door of salvation was shut. Now, in verse 8, which is of this chapter, where we find this term, blow ye the cornet in Gibeah, and the trumpet in Ramah, cry aloud at Bethaven, after thee, O Benjamin. Those are the first two words in this part of our verse, in the second phrase in Judges 5:14. And we see these three cities that are mentioned, Gibeah, Ramah, and Bethaven, in connection with Benjamin. Gibeah was the location where the man's concubine in Judges 19 was abused all night and left for dead in the morning. And Lord willing, we will get to that historical parable and be able to develop that if God wills. Ramah was the high place situated on a hill where both true as well as false worship took place. And here the false worship is in view. And Bethaven signifies the house of sin, where the worship of two golden calves, just as in Egypt, the two golden calves were two of the deities, the many deities, the pantheon of deities that they worship there. According to verse 5 of Hosea 10, 1 through 15, which I'm going to read now. But note also the repetition here in Hosea 10, again, of Israel, Samaria, Ephraim, and Judah, among others that are mentioned here as well. Israel is an empty vine. He bringeth forth fruit unto himself. According to the multitude of his fruit, he hath increased the altars. According to the goodness of his land, they have made goodly images. Their heart is divided. Now shall they be found faulty. He shall break down their altars. He shall spoil their images. And again, these are altars and images of idols. Now for now they shall say, we have no king, because we feared not Jehovah. What then should a king do to us? They have spoken words, swearing falsely, in making a covenant. Thus judgment springeth up as hemlock in the furrows of the field. The inhabitants of Samaria shall fear because of the calves of Bethaven. For the people shall mourn over it, and the priests thereof that rejoiced on it, for the glory thereof, because it is departed from it. It shall be also carried unto Assyria for a present to King Jareb. Ephraim shall receive shame, and Israel shall be ashamed of his own counsel. As for Samaria, her king is cut off as the foam upon the water. The high places also of Avon, the sin of Israel, shall be destroyed. The thorn and the thistle shall come up on their altars, and they shall say to the mountains, cover us, and to the hills, fall on us. O Israel, thou hast sinned from the days of Gibeah. There they stood, the battle in Gibeah against the children of iniquity did not overtake them. It is in my desire that I should chastise them, and the people shall be gathered against them, when they shall bind themselves in their two furrows. And Ephraim is as an heifer that is taught, and loveth to tread out the corn, but I passed over her fair neck. I will make Ephraim to ride, Judah shall plow, and Jacob shall break his clods. Sow to yourselves in righteousness, reap in mercy. Break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek Jehovah till he come and rain righteousness upon you. Ye have plowed wickedness, ye have reaped iniquity, you have eaten the fruit of lies, because thou didst trust in thy way, in the multitude of thy mighty men. Therefore shall a tumult arise among thy people, and all thy fortresses shall be spoiled, as Shalman spoiled Beth Arbel in the day of battle. The mother was dashed in pieces upon her children. So shall Bethel, and remember Bethel is the house of God, do unto you because of your great wickedness. In a morning shall the king of Israel utterly be cut off. Well, I think we'll have to stop here for today. And Lord willing, in our next study, we'll continue with the phrase out of Machir, which was one of Manasseh's sons. He, along with Ephraim, were the two sons of Joseph. Out of Machir came down governors.
Thank you for joining us today for Searching the Scriptures. Until next time, to God be the glory.